Support for WUWM podcasts comes from University School of Milwaukee, fulfilling a values-based mission of developing learners, fostering leaders, and preparing citizens for pre-kindergarten through 12th grade. More information at usm.org/mission.
This is Lake Effect from 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. I'm Joy Powers, and thank you so much for joining us. What happens when severe weather strikes at the Milwaukee County Zoo?
So sometimes, beautiful sunny day, and all of a sudden, we're in severe thunderstorm maybe coming. So our teams will ensure that not only are the animals safe, but our teams are safe.
We'll learn how the zoo keeps animals safe during severe weather later in the show. But we'll start with this. Last month, a 1,000-year flood devastated the Milwaukee area. At least 2 people died, and the flooding caused over $52 million in damages. Last week, the federal government approved FEMA assistance, which will provide financial relief to residents in 3 counties who were impacted by the flooding. Erin Streeter is a FEMA media relations specialist. She joins WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez to outline how residents can apply for assistance and what to expect from the process.
Can you start by walking me through the process of how someone does apply for help? Where do people begin?
Well, if you live in any of the 3 counties that were declared, which is Waukesha, Milwaukee, and Washington, and you suffer loss because of the storms in August, I recommend you to get in contact with us. There's different ways to do it. The easiest one is calling 1-800-621-3362. We're available to talk to you. There's also people that speak Spanish. It's a multilingual line. So if you know of somebody that needs assistance and maybe English is not their first language, once you call this hotline from FEMA, somebody will start taking your basic information. What do we need? Well, we need your name, and we need the address of where you suffer this loss. And if you're staying somewhere else because you can't go back to your house due to the damage that was caused, we're also going to need the address. We're going to need an email if you have one, or definitely a phone number where we can be in contact with you. One of the things that we recommend is that you also have an inventory ready of everything that you lost due to the storms, the damage. If you had to replace items, we recommend that you save the receipt. If you have the receipts, have them available for us. If you have house insurance, we ask you to contact them first so we can see what's the result of that. FEMA cannot duplicate efforts. What I mean is if you already receive money from your insurance, your homeowner insurance, we cannot duplicate the money that you already received. But if you have insurance and you're not getting any help, please come and talk to us. If you don't have insurance, please come and talk to us. And also, this is not just for homeowners, but it's also for renters, Jimmy.
So we're talking to renters, we're talking to people who have and haven't already filed a claim with their homeowners insurance, people who have and haven't already talked with you. A question that I've been getting, and I think a lot of people are also curious about when you talk about the inventory, is what is and what isn't covered by FEMA?
Well, definitely, we are concerned about your water heating system. Since the winter is coming, we want to make sure that your furnace is working. We also, anything that was lost, for example, if your car was damaged and it's the only car that you have and then you need that for work, FEMA can help you with that. If you had any medical expenses due to the storm, we can help you with that. If you have any dental expenses due to the storm, like let's say you fell down and you hurt yourself and you had to go either to the doctor or to the dentist, FEMA can help you with that. What else is important in the house? If you had damage to your property, for example, if you lost the uniforms from your kids that go to school, if you lost anything that they needed for school, That's also something that you can ask for help to be replaced. Washer, fridge, anything that is considered a priority for you to continue having the life that you need. If your floor was damaged, if you need to repair and make sure that there's no mold in your house, anything related to the storm, you should apply and come and talk to us.
This was a pretty thorough list that you just rattled off there, and some big household items and costly items. Is there a maximum amount that's payable to residents? And also, is there an income limit that applies to applicants as well?
Sure. The assistance that FEMA gives is not based on income. So it has nothing to do with the income that you bring home. And it is also a grant, so you don't have to pay taxes on this. Is an assistance that FEMA gives because of the disaster, because of what you had to go through. And FEMA understands that. So it is a grant. It's money that is it's been given to you to use for these repairs or to replace these items that were damaged. Each case is different. Some people maybe just have little damage, and somebody else had their furnace damaged, their water heater, their vehicle damaged. So it is by case. That's why each time somebody will go and apply for assistance, you are given a specific number to your application. This way we can follow up with you and see what are your specific needs.
I think something else that people are going to think about, as this is still top of mind, is when is the deadline to get their application into FEMA?
The deadline at this moment is November 12th. So there is plenty of time, but we're asking everyone not to wait to the last minute. The phone lines are available. FEMA app is very easy to use. You can download it. It's free to download. It's also in Spanish. You can go to disasterassistance.gov. You can also go to FEMA.gov if you want more information about FEMA. And like I say, we're looking forward in just a matter of a few days to open these recovery centers in different areas close to the community, where they can go and either follow up on their application if they already started the application online or on the phone. And with any follow-up questions, we're here to support Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Waukesha, and Washington County during this difficult moment. We know that the disaster that you go through is the most difficult one that you will live through. So we're here to assist you and to answer any questions. The most important thing, Jimmy, is for them to start this process.
Following up on that, we've got 2 months here for folks to get this application in and start the process. What is the timeline that residents can expect to hear back about their claim and the potential payouts?
Everything depends also in the person that is looking for this assistance. If they apply and they have everything ready, if they have homeowner insurance and they already contact them, that will make it a lot faster. If not, we ask you to please contact them so we can have a reply for them. If you already have your estimates of how much it's going to be to replace your furnace, if it was damaged, that will be helpful. Or if you already replaced it and you have the receipt already, that will be so much more helpful. It's by case, but sometimes it can be a quick turnaround of 5 to 7 business days. It's hard for me to say exactly because it's by case, but the more prepared you are, the faster it will be.
Okay, got it. So the more information that you have, the more front loading of the work that residents do before they get their application into you, the smoother the process should be. I guess my last question is there anything else that you think it's important for residents to know or expect with this process who this kind of experience is relatively new or brand new to so many people?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Jimmy. Well, the number one thing is that if they have any questions, if they're not sure if they qualify, any questions, please talk to us. Call our FEMA number, 1-800-621-3362. Please, any questions that they might have, we're ready to assist. We have the answers that you might be looking for. So don't hesitate. And the number 2 is that if you know somebody, a neighbor or somebody you know, and they went through this damage or had damage due to the storms of August, and they don't know anything about FEMA, and they don't know that they can have some assistance to replace maybe their water heater. We all have sometimes neighbors who are seniors, and maybe they don't listen to the news or they're not sure of what's happening. So if we have a community that is very caring, like they are here in Wisconsin, we ask you to help us share this message. They can just give them our phone number and they can call us or share this interview. I appreciate it, Jimmy. Thank you so much for the time. And like I say, the number one thing is if you have questions, come and talk to us. Get your paperwork ready if you have home insurance. If you don't, then just come and apply it. And remember, it's not just for homeowners. It's also if you're renting, and especially if you don't have a place to live. FEMA can help you with assistance.
That was FEMA Media Relations Specialist Aaron Streeter, speaking with WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez. You can find more information on how to apply for FEMA assistance at our website, wuwm.com. And did you know you can listen to Lake Effect as a podcast? Search for Lake Effect wherever you get your podcasts to download and listen on demand. Later in the show, we'll learn how the night sky in Milwaukee differs from the one seen in Guatemala. But first, we'll learn how the zoo prepares for severe weather events, like what we saw last month. That's coming up next on Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. You're listening to Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM. I'm Joy Powers. As the weather becomes more unpredictable in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee County Zoo is adapting. Tracy Dolphin is the zoo's director of animal management and health. She says the zoo has emergency plans they update and rehearse year-round. Dolphin speaks with Lake Effect's Excret Nunez about how the Milwaukee County Zoo prepares for weather disasters and how they handled the recent historic flooding.
Before we discuss how the zoo prepares for when extreme weather hits, can you give me some background on how the zoo decides which animals to bring and exhibit at the Milwaukee County Zoo? Like, what factors get considered?
Oh, that's a great question. And there are many factors that are considered, and it really depends on the species of animal that we are bringing in. So one of the very first things we're going to look at is, do we have the facility to house that animal? Do we have the staff that can take care of the animal? Do we have the veterinary care? Do we have the diet? All of those are factors that go into whether we will look at bringing an animal in. But also then we look at, because we're a conservation organization, so we really work with the associations of zoos and aquariums, and we look at the entire population that are housed within the AZA. And we align our collection plan to what is needed. So if we are going to be bringing in a specific type of bird, are they an endangered animal? Are they threatened in the wild? So we look at those kind of ICUN standings to see if those would be a great fit for us as well. And then we build our animal collection up from there as well.
Just to clarify, can you explain what the AZA stands for and what that is?
Sure. It's the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. It is our accredited body. So we are accredited by AZA. If you look at, there's over about 2,500 animal facilities that hold USDA license, but only about 250 hold AZA accreditation. So it is the gold standard for animal care.
And you were mentioning some of the factors. Does the climate here in Milwaukee is that ever considered of will they be able to live through our winters or something like that?
Absolutely. So we look at climate and we look at facility. Are we able to support them? So I will just jump in and say our snow leopards and our red pandas are really adapted to cold climates. So they do really, really well in our winters, but we also provide them air conditioning indoor habitats in summer. So in reverse, when we look at some of our African hoofstock, they do really well in summer, and then they are provided, warm indoor holdings over winter days as well. So absolutely that does come into play, and that's where our facilities will, make up for when our weather changes as well.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think that's really helpful background. Because I think about it a lot, moving here to Milwaukee specifically, I feel like we're kind of known for unpredictable weather. In general, how does a zoo prepare for such uncertain scenarios?
So all of our animals, each individual animal and species, has their own plan of temperatures. And that varies from species to species. So our bears will have temperature guidelines. Our big cats, as I mentioned, red pandas and snow leopards, they have temperature guidelines that will really dictate what the weather is and what we're going to do to accommodate them. So when there is a temperature that I'm just going to arbitrarily say a temperature, everyone has specific temperatures, but if at 70 degrees, we know at 70 degrees, the red pandas are given access to their air-conditioned indoor holding, that is what our teams will follow as well. And that is across the board for all of our animals, whether it's due to high temperatures or low temperatures.
So when it comes to an extreme weather event, like the flood or like a tornado alert, is there kind of, along with those temperature guidelines, like a guideline of what to do with each animal?
So we look at it. So we're always monitoring the weather. Of course, severe weather can pop up, but there are lots of times that we are aware of when severe weather is going to come. So let's say a severe thunderstorm is going to come. That may come with increase in more rain or higher winds. And so for all of our animals, we have a plan in place of if that is going to be forecasted to come through the zoo, what we're going to do for those. So if a severe thunderstorm is predicted to come overnight, we'll make sure that our big cats are secured inside overnight. One of our, greatest assets to the zoo, if you walk around, is just the trees and, all of those within the habitats. But when we're looking at high winds, we also know that limbs can come down. They can damage the outdoor habitats. We want to ensure that the animals are safe. And so following that plan, we would ensure that the animals are inside overnight. During the day, if we are knowing that severe weather's coming, our teams have time to prepare, and they'll either, depending on the level of severity, our animals will have access inside, or the teams will work before the storm is scheduled to be in our area, or forecasted, I should say, not scheduled. They will have brought animals in as well. So sometimes, beautiful sunny day, and all of a sudden, we're in severe thunderstorm maybe coming. So our teams will ensure that not only are the animals safe, but our teams are safe. So we'll bring in animals ahead of time so that then our team is also safe during that period of time.
So you're definitely looking at a lot of different factors. You kind of mentioned this, but do you ever run through drills to prepare, or live action drills or something like that?
So we do a multitude of live drills to plan. Those more fall into the range of if we had an animal that would, escape from their enclosure, we would do those live action drills. We do severe weather action drills as well. So on a Monday afternoon when we're planning a drill, or Monday morning, whenever that would be, we would say over the radio, there's a severe weather event coming, and then all of the zoo would go through how they would prepare for that, and that includes the animal department in what they would need to go through to prepare the animals for that event that was being forecasted during our drill.
That's so cool. And in these plans, where do animals go? I'm sure it varies from situation to situation, but in any of the plans, would you ever have to relocate or evacuate animals from the zoo?
It depends. It depends on what that situation would be. All of our areas have backup plans. So if something would go down if a heating would go down in our flamingo building, well, we have a backup area that we could relocate our flamingos to. And we have that all written out, and, the teams, so we're not trying to figure out in the middle of a crisis what needs to be done. Those plans are already documented.
I'm Lake Effect's ex-Grant Nunez speaking with Tracy Dolphin about how the Milwaukee County Zoo prepares for extreme weather events. So, as we've been talking about, the zoo has a variety of disaster plans or plans in place in case extreme weather hits. But what infrastructure does the zoo have in place to keep the animals safe from extreme weather?
So it really goes back to what their habitats are, their outdoor habitats and also indoor habitats. So take, for example, like our giraffe building. So guests can come in, they can actually be inside in the building with the giraffes. But you'll feel like, it's very cold outside, but nice and toasty warm inside. And that really supports our giraffes through the winter, but also allows them to have access when those temperatures allow them to be out. We have buildings that are actually built as tornado shelters as well, that serve for the animals as well as people. So it really is looking at that infrastructure and supporting the animals, whether it be in higher heat or in low temperatures as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you could walk me through a real life example, since it has been over a month since Milwaukee has been hit by this historic flood. It was something that was unexpected for a lot of people, but was it like that for you and the zoo? Because it started off as a nice sunny day.
It started off as a nice sunny day, and actually, as we were watching the weather, it looked like it was going to clear up as well. And then we had that line that just kept producing more and more rain. And at that point, we have night staff, zookeepers, that are here 24 hours. And so they were going through, they were checking to make sure that the drains were cleared so that we wouldn't get back up as well in the animal area. So they were communicating with our day team, just letting them know what was going on. Everybody was in the animal division. All of our animals were safe and sound. There was a few stalls that got a little wet, and some of the runoff from our substrate that went down, because we have a ramp that goes down, was really all that happened for us, which we are, fortunate about. But we also are very prepared, and we take our cues from, if there's rain, are we seeing rain build up in an area? Whether that be, not the historic event, but just regular events. And if we are seeing that, we look to adjust that already so that we're already getting ahead of anything that may be coming our way. I'm not sure how you could get ahead of the historic flooding event.
Right.
That was just, an event that you couldn't, really forecast. But we were just lucky that in most of our plans already, we had addressed erosion and where water was coming in and drains and things like that ahead of it.
Well, before we wrap up, I'm wondering how experiencing this historic flood has prepared you and your team to care for the zoo's animals in future extreme weather events.
I think, like I had mentioned, we have one of our buildings is a basement, and that's where we did see some of the water coming in, nothing substantial. So we did go back, talk about how can we do a little more erosion control in that area? How can we set up so the drains, we make sure that the drains are clear and that the water is, being able just to flow through those drains as well. Just minor tweaks because we really didn't have anything. And then also within the zoo, where the water did back up a bit, erosion, we look at erosion control and what can we do to make that a little bit better next time.
Well, Tracy, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I really appreciated learning more about your work.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Tracy Dolphin is the Director of Animal Management and Health at the Milwaukee County Zoo. She spoke with Lake Effect's ex-Grant Nunez. Still to come, we'll learn about an upcoming planetarium show, all about the night sky of Guatemala. That's next on Lake Effect, on 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. This is Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM. I'm Joy Powers. UW-Milwaukee's Manfred Olson Planetarium has an ongoing series called Our Shared Sky. This month, you can travel to the night sky of Guatemala. UWM film instructor Renato Umali will share his short film, Diaries from Guatemala, all about a trip that opened his eyes to Guatemala's vast culture and history. To learn more about the program, Lake Effect's Audrey Nowakowski is joined by Umali and Manfred Olson Planetarium Director Gene Creighton.
So your upcoming event, A Night in Guatemala, explores more than just what the sky looks like from that region. You're actually going to explore what one should know before traveling to another country, explore themes of tourism. Can either of you share how this event developed between your two departments?
Well, maybe I answer this one. The planetarium is trying to make more visible the connections between the celestial and everyday life. So the goal is to embrace all cultures over time around the world. And we thought that A Night in Guatemala gives us an opportunity to connect to the culture and learn about how to travel better.
And Renato, you are a film professor at UWM, and you are also incorporating a short that you made from a trip to Guatemala called Diaries from Guatemala. So can you share a little bit about this documentary and how you hope it prompts people's perspective about going to another country?
Yes, I can. Well, first of all, I've never been to Guatemala before or any place in Central America. So this was a first trip for me. So me and my partner, we did what we thought was our due diligence by renting or taking out Lonely Planet guides or, travel guides from the bookstore and reading up on what should we do. We saw that there was volcano tours, there was Lake Atitlan that was a beautiful place to visit. Primarily, we also wanted to learn Spanish, Guatemalan Spanish. So we ended up focusing on looking for schools that did 1-2 week programs to try to immerse ourselves in the language. And so that was some of the stuff that we looked at prior to visiting that country.
And your short film kind of follows you along as you're walking near these volcanoes, and it incorporates flashes of photos from the people from the Guatemalan Civil War and, the importance of not just visiting a place, but understanding its history and cultural history especially. Can you share a bit more about how you wanted those things to play off of each other for this short film?
Well, one of the first things we did when we went to Guatemala was, after a little stay at Antigua and to go to these volcano tours, they call them eruption tours. It was quite remarkable. But I would see many indigenous people that the travel guides did speak about, didn't know too much about them or their language. One of the things when we went to the school was that they offered cultural events, hikes around the area, but also historical lessons. And it was there that I learned about the Guatemalan Civil War, and I learned about all the horrible things, the tragedies that had happened in that country, mostly against the indigenous people. And so I was unaware of it. Some of the guides did allude to some of the dictatorships and oppressive governments in around the time, 1960 to 1996, during the war. But hearing this person that clearly had lived it and knew people that clearly had been affected by it was something else entirely. And that really changed my perspective, mainly because we were still traveling in Guatemala. We were going to places where, while it was going to be like a tourist site, it was also not too far from maybe a tragic event in the history of the country. So it was important for me to kind of start recognizing that, especially as someone coming in from the United States, someone coming from, an advanced or a first world country. And I think for people who are interested in traveling is to kind of notice these things and to reach out to people who have lived it. I think that was one of the most important things for me in that trip, and completely unexpected, was to learn from regular citizens, to engage with regular people like me and my partner and tell us a history that was so present for them.
And Jean, as listeners may already know, you are from Greece, which a lot of people travel to for tourism. So can you speak to the impact of tourists from yours and your family's perspective?
Yeah, so having lived in a tourist place, I have observed what happens with a parachute tourist and how, plenty of parachute tourists have a perfectly fine time. But I do think that it can be a richer experience if, for example, the three important dates that you might not know of, but when did the Byzantine Empire fall? When did it start? 1821 was when modern Greece started, fell apart from the Ottoman Empire. Those are important dates a kid would know on the street. So having that historical perspective helps you understand, oh, this building is important because of blah, blah, blah. So you understand a little more, and then you can ask questions. The other thing I would strongly recommend is go to your library and look for literature. Sometimes, if you like to read history, go ahead and read history. But for some people, you can get the flavor of a place with a finely written novel. You can get some backdrop that gives perspective and enhances your enjoyment. This isn't just, you should do this. It also makes the experience better.
And while a night in Guatemala is, of course, exploring how we interact with other places, you are going to be exploring the night sky as well. So, Jean, what are some things you'll be highlighting in this show and pointing out to audiences of what they can see of the night sky over Guatemala?
So the interesting thing about the sky is that if you are at the same latitude, you're going to see the same sky. Milwaukee is at 43 degrees. Guatemala City is at 15, which means that there's a good chunk of sky that we take for granted, like the Big Dipper, that is not always visible if you are in Guatemala City. And on the flip side, if you look in the south, and the constellation that, of course, everybody has to know, Sagittarius, because that's the direction of the center of our galaxy, right? At our latitude, it's never really very high. A tree, a big house, it's out. But if you live in Guatemala, Sagittarius, Scorpius is going to be super high. And that's why it's a household name. So interestingly, the Mayan also saw a scorpion where we see a Scorpius. So I think it's fun to kind of see that the stars that you're used to do depend, at least to some extent, on where you live.
Well, and I like how the Shared Sky series just has so many different areas to explore. What have you both enjoyed about working together to put together a unique program that includes both talk of tourism, a film component, and a night sky component?
I just loved working with Jean and being in the planetarium. It's an amazing place. It's so conducive to wonder. And even though me and Jean were working and rehearsing, it was just lovely to be in that space and to sit back. The seats are amazing. And it's just a nice place. It's a great place to wonder.
Wow, thank you. What a lovely testimonial. It's been a great opportunity also for me to work with Renato, because it's not every day that you meet people who are allowing themselves to be impacted by what they've experienced. And as I said, I think it really is important as citizens of the world to be careful of our planet everywhere, right? Be mindful of other people and what they need and how we can connect. One of the things you mentioned, Audrey, which I didn't say, but it's time. When you go to another country, figure out where your money's going. Figure out who's getting the money that you're spending, and see if you can put it directly in the hands of the people rather than some big corporation or big group that might give very little back to the community that is actually your host.
All great things to keep in mind, and a reminder that the planetarium is a great space to make our world and galaxy seem a little smaller from the comfort of those chairs. So Jean and Renato, thank you both so much for joining me today to share more about A Night in Guatemala.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roger.
Jean Creighton is the director of the Manfred Olson Planetarium and our regular astronomy contributor. Renato Umali is a film instructor at UW-Milwaukee. They spoke with Lake Effect's Audrey Nowakowski ahead of the A Night in Guatemala show on September 24th. You can find more information at WUWM.com. And that's Lake Effect for today. I'm Joy Powers. Audrey Nowakowski, Sam Woods, and Excrant Nunez join me in producing Lake Effect each week with help from Graham Thomas. Becky Mortensen is our executive producer. Emily Files helps edit the show. This week, we also heard from Maria Peralta Arellano, Eddie Morales, and Susan Benz from the WUWM News team. Jason Reevy is our studio engineer. Michelle Maternowski is our digital manager. Valeria Navarro Villegas is our digital editor. Trevor Shep wrote our theme music. If you missed any of Lake Effect this week, you can find all of our conversations at WUWM.com. If you'd like to take the show on the go, you can download the Lake Effect podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for joining us right here on listener-supported 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.